A question I get asked a lot is which is a better place to invest, into a pension or into an ISA? And while I wish there was one simple, one-size-fits-all answer, the truth is, it depends. In this video, we'll take a look at the nuances of a pension and an ISA and how to choose between the two. Hi there, welcome to my channel, where we talk money and having more of it. In this video, we're going to take a look at what an ISA and a pension are and how to determine your portfolio allocation to each. The first thing to note, a bit bizarrely, is that neither of these are in fact actual investments. They are the baskets for holding the assets you invest in, and they are stored within this basket. While both similarly are designed for accumulating assets to build wealth, there are differences in how they are structured from a tax and access perspective. So let's start by taking a look at pensions. A pension is the ultimate long-term saving vehicle designed to help you build up your nest egg for later life. And on our pension, we get some great tax benefits by way of tax relief on our contributions, as well as tax-free growth in the assets we buy into our pension. This means if you are a basic rate taxpayer paying a 20% rate of tax and you contribute £80 into your pension, HMRC will top up what you theoretically paid as tax onto your pension contribution. So for example, the £20 here, and you will then have £100 contribution to your pension. Furthermore, if you're in a workplace pension scheme, your employer is obligated to contribute a minimum of 3% of your earnings. Now, these all sound like great benefits, so what's the downside of a pension? Well, firstly, there is a limit on how much you can put in your pension per year. And for the 2021-22 tax year, that amount is £40,000. However, you must have sufficient earnings to put in that £40,000, so at least £40,000 of earnings. In addition, there is a lifetime allowance which limits the amount you can take as your pension benefit over life. And if you take more than this amount, or if you've grown your pension benefit to more than this amount, you will be taxed up to 55% on the excess. The 2021 year 22 limit is currently £1.073 million. The lifetime allowance has been steadily reducing since 2011 and 12, when it was 1.8 million. So this is really an important element to keep a note of and an eye on in your pension. The second thing is you cannot withdraw your pension until you reach the mandated age, which currently is 55, but in 2028 is going to go up to 57. And thirdly, when you eventually do withdraw your pension, only 25% of your withdrawals will be tax-free. The remainder will be taxed at your marginal rate of tax. So let's take a look at what an ISA is next. An ISA is just like a pension in that it's a vehicle for holding the assets you invest in. But it differs from a pension in terms of the tax benefit you get and the accessibility. So in terms of tax, your contribution into your ISA is after-tax money, and you get no tax relief on this contribution. In terms of the assets you buy into your ISA, any income on them or any capital gains in terms of growth in asset value will not be subject to any income tax or capital gains tax. From an accessibility perspective, in general, you can access your ISA whenever you want. There is one ISA that slightly differs, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So there are four basic types of ISA. And for the tax year 21-22, you can contribute up to 20,000 across all of your ISAs. So in other words, it's a maximum of 20,000 into all of them, so cumulative. So if you put 10,000 into one, you can put 10,000 into another, maximum. Let's take a look at the types of ISA. So the first one is a cash ISA, which is simply a tax-friendly way of holding your cash savings. So if interest rates are high, the interest you earn on your savings will not be subject to any tax. But when interest rates are low as they are now, the cash ISA doesn't really offer a benefit because HMRC already shields a certain amount of interest income from tax. If you are a basic rate taxpayer, you can earn up to £1,000 worth of interest without paying any tax. A high rate taxpayer can earn up to 500, and an advanced rate taxpayer gets absolutely no benefit. So as a basic rate taxpayer, if you are earning 1% on your savings, you would have to have saved up at least £100,000 to start paying tax. In addition, because you are limited to a total 20,000 investment across all your ISAs, by putting your money into your cash ISA, you could be potentially taking away from a more efficient and effective ISA during the current low interest rate environment. On that point, let's move to the second type of ISA, which is your stocks and shares ISA, also known as your investment ISA, because you can invest in different types of assets in this ISA, such as bonds, individual shares, funds, those index tracker funds, ETFs, and investment trusts. And the point that I want to emphasize, as I mentioned earlier, any income on the assets in your stocks and shares ISA, and that's dividends or interest, or where you've sold assets and made a gain, will not be subject to income tax or capital gains tax from the point that you bought the asset into your ISA. And this is a huge benefit of the ISA, and just thought I want to re-emphasize that point. The third type of ISA is a lifetime ISA, also referred to as a LISA. And this is like a quasi-pension, but with some additional benefits. So you can open a LISA between the age of 18 and 40. And any contribution that you make will be topped up by HMRC by 25%, subject to a limit. So you can contribute up to £4,000 for the tax year 21-22, and HMRC will give you up to 25% of that, which is another £1,000. You can contribute into your LISA until the age of 50. Now you can't access your LISA until the age of 60 unless you're looking to buy your first property. There is also one other caveat: if you have a terminal illness, you can also access it. So if you access your LISA outside of these kind of limitations, you will be subject to a 25% penalty, which could mean that you could be paying more on the penalty than the benefit that you received, because this would be on the total amount of the assets that you withdraw, and they may have had a bit of capital appreciation and grown. Looking at the first property, if you're looking to use your LISA for buying your first property, points to note is, firstly, you can't withdraw the funds out of your LISA for at least 12 months. But you wouldn't want to do that because the reason why you're using a LISA is you want that top-up benefit. In addition, your first property has to be a property that you're going to live in. It cannot be a buy-to-let property. And thirdly, it cannot exceed a value of £450,000. So let's move on to the last type of ISA. It's called an innovative finance ISA, and you can participate in peer-to-peer loans across a peer-to-peer platform on your innovative finance ISA. And because these platforms pay a lot higher interest, this kind of ISA would shield that interest income from tax. Now, these investments pay a lot higher interest because they are a lot more risk. And many of these peer-to-peer platforms have in fact gone bankrupt. And a real point to note here is that the Financial Services Compensation Scheme does not cover you for these platforms going bankrupt. Some of the platforms have their own kind of reserves to protect against defaults, but were there to be a huge increase in defaults, it's unlikely that these reserves would be sufficient to ensure that everyone got their money back. On that point, the Financial Services Conduct Scheme does not guarantee you for losses you suffer on assets within your ISA, but it does guarantee you for the platform on which you hold your ISA. So in other words, if the platform that you hold your ISA on went bankrupt and you lost money, you would be allowed to claim up to £85,000 from the Financial Services Conduct Scheme. So now we know the differences and the features of an ISA and a pension. So when are they most appropriate to use in your portfolio? Let's take a look. As a starting point, you can put the same or similar assets into your pension and your ISA. So in reality, the ultimate decision as to which is better depends on your goals and when you want to reach these on your timeline. So let's take a look at that timeline. Most people have a range of savings goals from the short term, which is generally those less than 5 years. This could be a vacation, big expenditures such as a wedding, a house deposit, to those in the medium term, education, your children's college education, maybe early retirement even, to those very long-term goals, your nest egg in old age. So it makes sense then to have both a pension to get the tax relief benefits, as well as to lock up some of your money for old age, as well as to have an ISA to give you the flexibility for funding those earlier goals, as well as to provide you with a tax-free source of assets in the long term without having to worry about what future tax rates are going to be in the future. If you are still unclear as to which of these two baskets to put your money into, it is always worthwhile to go to a regulated financial advisor to get a plan drawn up to meet your goals. If you're interested in learning more about investing, why don't you grab the Investing 101 guide below, or pop over to my website and see what courses and webinars are on offer. If you like this video, please let me know by liking it and share it with any other ladies who are ready to change their financial story. For financial education and money talk designed for women, please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified of when I post a new video. And thank you very much for watching this video all the way through to the end.